In this video, we are going to create this modern social media app design using React and Tailwind. The website is completely responsive, and we also have a dark mode as well. We are going to create this from absolute scratch, and I will be explaining every single line of code. So let's get into it. So to start the project, here I have my empty React application with Tailwind inside. This is a starter folder. You can find the link in the description if you are going to code along with me. We are going to be using a lot of images, and you can also find these images inside this starter folder. Here is the empty project. Also for the icons, we are going to use hero icons. Find the link in the description to this website and leave it open for now. So to start the project, first we are going to create the components that we are going to need. Inside the source folder, I will create this folder named components. Inside, we're going to have 6 components. Navigation.jsx. This component is going to have the navigation list on the left. Next one is going to be friends.jsx. This one is going to be on the right, and it is going to display the friends list. Next, we are going to create the feed. This will be in the middle, and it is going to show the posts. Next, we are going to create posts.jsx. This component is going to be inside the feed component. Also, another one that is going to be inside the feed is the share post. And finally, we're going to have bottom nav.jsx. So I will use shortcuts to create functional components for these files. To be able to use the shortcuts, you need to install this extension called React Snippets. Download this extension if you haven't installed it yet, because this is going to make our job a lot easier. Going back into the components, I can just use RAFCE to create a arrow function component. And also it is going to take the component's name from the file. So now we have this feed component. Let's do the same for the others. And now that we have functional components inside every component file, we can display them inside app.jsx. But first, let's style this container. Let's make it a flex container and make it cover the entire page by setting it to minimum h screen. That means minimum height 100 VH. Let's set the width to full, so width 100%. Center the items. And for the screens that are bigger than medium, flex direction is going to be flex row. Inside, we are going to create another container element, which is going to be main. And inside, this is where we are going to put the components. First, we are going to put the navigation in. Next, the feed. Right under that, we are going to put friends. And these are the only components we are going to display inside this app.jsx. For now, we are not going to display bottom nav. We are going to display it once we are done styling the entire page. And also, these two components, share post and posts, are going to be inside this feed component. Let's make this main a flex container and make it cover the entire viewport and set the width to full. And let's import the components. Navigation from components. Feed. And friends. And here you can see the components. So now that we are displaying these 3 main parts, using them we can create the layout. And because they are inside a flex container, we can easily give them flex 1, flex 2 and flex 1 to create the layout that we need. First, let's go into the navigation. So the navigation is going to be sticky because we want it to stay in its position when we scroll down. For these screens that are larger than x large, it is going to be hidden. And for the screens that are bigger than X large, it is going to be a flex container. We are going to bring the items to the top and then to the right. And this one is going to have a flex value of 1. Next, let's go into the feed. Feed is also going to be a flex container, but the flex value is going to be 2 because it is going to be taking a little bit more space than the navigation and the friends. And inside this component, we are going to have 2 more components. So share post and posts. We want them to be stacked on top of each other. So let's change the flex direction to column. Center the items. Put some gap between them and put some padding on the x-axis. So padding left and right 0.75 rem. Let's also display the share post and the posts. We are going to be displaying 8 posts, so let's copy and paste this 7 more times. Let's also import the components. Next, let's go into friends, and this is basically going to be same as the navigation, so we can just copy this and paste it inside. We only need to change justify end. It is going to be item start and justify start. So here we have created the layout, and if we use DevTools, it is going to be much more easier to understand for you. As you can see, we have the feed section in the middle, and it is taking more space than the navigation and friends. Each of these 2 components have the flex value of 1, so they are taking the same space, and the feed in the middle is much more larger. The navigation part is on the right for this component because of item center and justify end. And we changed it for friends because we want it to be on the left like this. So it's items start and justify start. Now we have the basic layout. We can close these 2. We can start the actual design. Let's delete this text and create a unordered list. So this unordered list is also going to be sticky, and it is going to be from top 10. So we put this space 2.5 rem from top. It is going to be a flex container, and width is going to be 4 by 6. So that means this unordered list is going to take 66% of the available space from its container. The flex direction is going to be column because we are going to have list items inside. Let's put some gap between them and give this a rounded corner, a border and background white, padding of 5. Let's go inside this unordered list and create the list items. These are going to be links. So inside every single one of the list items, we're going to have a anchor tag. This one is going to say home. It is going to be a flex container because we're also going to add some icons inside, and we want them to be side by side and also center them. We are also going to bring them to the left by setting it to justify start and put some gap between them. Let's increase the text size, and when you hover over it, the text is going to be blue 500. We are going to copy and paste the icons right above this text, but first let's create all the list items. Copy and paste this. This one is going to be explore your profile, groups, notifications, saved, settings, and logout. Once we finish the design, we are also going to add a dark mode button into this list, but right now we are not going to need it. And I just realized I forgot to style the list items as well. We are just going to copy and paste these for the others. Let's give it rounded corners and a padding of 3. Transition colors for the hover effect. Transition duration is going to be 200. And when you hover over it, the background is going to be gray 100. So let's just copy this. To select multiple lines at the same time, you can press on Ctrl, and while you are pressing, just click on different lines. Next, we are going to add the icons to each of the list items. So right now, this is how it looks. Let's go into hero icons and look for a home icon. We are going to copy the SVG, so click on this and paste it right above this text inside the anchor tag. Next, we are going to look for a magnifying glass. Let's copy the SVG and paste it right above Explore. Next is your profile. Let's copy this one and paste it right above the text. Next, we're gonna look for a groups icon. Let's copy this and paste it. Next is notifications. Let's copy this one and paste it. Let's look for a saved icon. Copy the SVG and paste it. Let's look for a settings icon. Copy and paste it. And the final one is logout. Let's copy this one and paste it right inside. There's something we need to customize about these SVGs, which is the class. We are going to change the size to width. Let's press on Ctrl and select this text. Double click and change it to W. Let's see how it looks. And here we have the navigation section. Everything looks fine. Now we can go to the next part. So we are going to continue with friends component. Let's alt click into this component. So inside this div, we are going to create another div, which is also going to be sticky. From top, it is going to be 10, same as the navigation. Let's make it a flex container and change the flex direction to column. Set the width to full. Put some gap between the elements that we are going to create and give it some rounded corners. A border and white background. Padding white and center the text. And for these screens that are larger than medium, the width is going to be 5 by 6. So that means it is going to take 83% of its container's available width. Inside, we're gonna have this H3 that says friends. Let's make the text larger and font semi-bold. Right under this, we're gonna have a unordered list, which is going to be a flex container with full, flex direction column and gap 5. Inside, we are going to be displaying the friends list, but we are not going to be typing them one by one. Instead, inside this friends component, we are going to create an array of friends list, and inside this array, we are going to create every single one of the items that we are going to display as objects, and these objects are going to have properties such as image and name. So this is basically one friend that we are going to display. Let's copy and paste this. And these image names are basically the images that you can find inside this folder. We are going to be importing them. Let's change the names. And let's import the images. Import friend1 from the friends folder. Let's import the second one, third one, fourth, and the final one. And inside this unordered list, let's open up a set of curly braces so we can use JavaScript. So using the .map method, we are going to map over this array. The arguments are going to be friends and their index. And for every single one of these friends, we are going to display a list item. We need to use the index as the key. So when you use map to create elements depending on an array like this, you need to provide a key because React needs to uniquely identify each of these elements that you're going to create. Inside the list, we're going to have a div that displays the image, and right under it there is going to be the name of the friend. Let's open up a set of curly braces and display friend.name, and the image is going to display friend.image. Let's style the list item. It is going to be a flex container cursor pointer when you hover over it, indicating that this is something clickable. Flex wrap. So when the viewport gets smaller, these items are going to be wrapping inside the container. Center the items and put all the available space between them. Gap 5 and rounded corners. Background is going to be gray 100. Let's give it a padding of 3. And for the hover effect, let's create a transition. And when you hover over it, the background is going to be gray 200. This div is also going to be a flex container. Center the items and gap 5. The images are too big, so let's set them to width 14. So 3.5 rem, and let's also make them circular, so rounded full. And for the screens that are larger than medium, width is going to be 16. Also, let's make this text larger and font semi-bold. And finally, outside this div and still inside the list item, we're gonna create a button that says message. Let's give it rounded corners, make the background blue, a padding of 2, text white, and transition for the hover effect. When you hover over it, the background blue is going to be 400, and this is going to be items center, not items start. And we are done with the friends component. This is how it looks. The hover effects are working fine and everything is in the right place. Now we can go to the next part, which is the feed section. So let's click on feed. So inside this component, there is nothing much we are going to do. We are only going to pass props to these elements, and I will show you what it means in a second. First, we need to import a lot of images from this post images folder and also these friends. So let's quickly import all of these images. So now that we imported all of these images, we are going to use them for the posts. But first, let's go into the share post and style it. Let's delete this text. So this div is going to be sticky at the top. This time we are not going to put any space. Let's make it a flex container and set the width to 100%. Change the flex direction to column and put some gap between the elements. For rounded corners, we are going to do something different. We are going to use rounded bottom left 3XL, rounded bottom right 3XL. And the reason why we did this, because it is absolutely at the top and we don't see the top left and top right corner, so we don't need to give rounded corners to them. Let's make the background white 60%, and that is going to set it to a transparent white background because this component is going to have a glass background. Let's use backdrop blur to create that glass effect. And inside, we're gonna have another div that is going to be a flex container. So this one is going to have the profile image, and right under it, there is going to be a text area. Let's import the image that we are going to use. Let's use curly braces to put the image inside. Let's set the width to 20, cursor pointer, and make it circular by using rounded full. Give it a border of 2 and transition for the hover effect. When you hover over this image, we are going to move it to the top by 1, and also we are going to turn the border to blue 500, and we're going to create a little shadow. For the text area, we can delete ID and name and create a placeholder. Let's set the width to full, and this text area is not going to be resizable, so resize none. Let's give it rounded corners and a border, padding of 3, a little shadow, and we are going to delete the outline, and we're going to set a transparent ring for the hover effect. We are going to use the same transition, so let's copy and paste this. So when you hover over this text area, the background is going to be background gray 50, and when you focus on it, focus means basically clicking on this text area. We are going to move it to the top by 1, and also the background is going to be gray 100, and we're going to create this shadow and create this blue ring. And this is how it's going to look. When you hover over the image and click on the text area, we basically create this 3D effect by creating a larger shadow. So outside this div, we're going to create another div, which is also going to be a flex container, and flex wrap, item center, and justify between. Inside this div, we're going to have another div and a button. The button is going to say share. Let's give it some rounded corners, background blue 500, padding on the X axis is going to be 5, and padding Y is going to be 2. Let's set the text to white, and the same transition that we used here, just copy and paste this. And when you hover over this button, background blue is going to be 600, and when you focus on it, background blue 400. Inside this div, we're gonna have 3 buttons side by side. So let's make it a flex container, flex wrap, and center the items. And we're gonna set the buttons inside to justify start, so they will be on the left. And let's put some gap between them, gap 3. So let's create the first button. There's going to be a text inside, and also we are going to copy and paste a icon to the top. So let's make it a flex container, cursor pointer, and gap 2, rounded corners, padding 2, and the same transition effect. When you hover over it, you're gonna set the background to blue 500 and text to white. We can copy and paste this 2 more times. This one is going to say location, and this one mood. Let's go into the hero icons. Let's copy this icon and paste it at the top of this text. Let's look for a location icon. Copy this and paste it inside. Let's copy this one and paste it right here. So seems like we forgot to put a dash in front of these publics. And also coming back into this share post, we forgot to give it some padding, so padding 5. And also gonna create a border. Same thing we did with the rounded corners. We don't see the top, so we're just gonna create a border bottom, border left, and border right. And now we are basically done with this share post component. Right now it may seem like it's not in the right place, but once we style the posts, it is going to be at the top. The hover effects are working fine and everything is in the right place. So we can go to the next part. So let's go into the posts, delete the text, and let's set this div to flex1. We want each of these posts to take equal space inside this div. So this div is already a flex container and we set the flex direction to column. So each of these posts are going to be stacked on top of each other. And when we give them flex1, they are going to be taking equal space. Let's give it some rounded corners and border. Set the background to white. Inside, we're going to create another div. Set the flex direction to column, gap 3 and padding 5. So inside this container, we're going to have one more div that is going to have a profile image, another div, and a h3 inside. And inside this h3, we are going to display the name, and we're going to say shared a photo. Right under this h3, we're going to have another span that says when this post is shared. We are going to display the names and images by using props, and I will explain how to do that in a second. First, let's finish the design. We are going to center the items, and we are going to put all the available space between the elements inside and put some gap between them. And we're going to put this image and the information inside another div. So let's move this one inside. Flex and item center. Image is going to have a width of 16, cursor pointer, and it is going to be circular, so rounded full, 2-pixel border. Gonna delete the outline and a transparent ring for the hover effect. And when you hover over the image, you're gonna have this 2-pixel ring, and it is going to be blue 500. Let's change the flex direction of this div, because these two texts are going to be on top of each other. So outside this div, we are going to display the post image by using props. The reason why we are going to do it is we have the same component more than once, and to share different images between them, we are going to create props such as image is going to be equal to image 6, and friend is going to be equal to friend1, name Jason. And now basically we can pass these information by just putting props into the arguments of these components. And inside curly braces, if I say props.image, as you can see, we display the image coming from this prop. Let's display the name as well. And let's display the profile image of the friend. Oops, this image is going to be outside this div. Let's also give it some rounded corners, and right on top of it, put some text. So right now we have the profile image, the name, and the image of this one post, but the others are empty because we only pass props to one post. So right under this div and still inside this one, we're gonna add a little icon. Let's go into hero icons and copy this icon and paste it here. We're gonna need 3 more icons, so let's scroll down. Right under this image, gonna create another div, center the items, put some gap between them, and let's give it a rounded corner. Background gray 100 and padding 2. Inside we're gonna put 3 icons, one for likes, one for comments, and one for share. Let's create another div, center the items and put a little gap. So this is the number of likes, and we're gonna put a heart icon here. Let's look for the icon, copy this one, paste it at the top. Let's look for a comment, copy this. So let's copy this div, paste it, change this number, and change this SVG. The final one is going to be the share. Let's copy this. Let's change the SVG. And we have completed the design of the post. Now let's share the other images to the other posts. Let's go into the feed, copy and paste this. Let's change the image to 2. And here we have passed all the available images as props. Let's see how it looks. And there you go. We have different friends posting different images. We just have a small problem here. We need to put some space between this names and this text. We can do it by going into posts and putting a space between here using curly braces. So now that we finished the basic design, let's see how the responsiveness works. As you can see, once the viewport gets smaller, the friends and navigation section becomes invisible. We only have the share post and this feed section. So that means we're gonna need a navigation part, and we are going to design the bottom nav to appear at the bottom here once the viewport gets smaller like this. So as you may remember, at the beginning of the video when we create the bottom nav, I said we are not going to display it at the moment. Now we can display it inside the app.jsx file. Let's import it. So let's alt click and open this component. Let's delete the text and turn this div into a unordered list. And before we start to style it, let's make the viewport smaller so we can see it at the bottom when it appears. It is going to be fixed at the bottom, so bottom 0. It is going to be a flex container and taking 100% of the width. No list types. Justify around to put all the available space around the items inside. A border top. Background is going to be transparent white, so -60. Padding 3 and a little shadow. Backdrop blur MD for the glass effect. And for these screens that are larger than X large, this is going to be hidden. Inside we're gonna have list items, and we already have the list items inside the navigation, so we can just go into here and copy this one and paste it inside. Let's copy the second one as well. And paste it right under it. And third one. Let's copy this one more time and change this to messages. And right under this there is going to be another button which is dark mode, but right now we are going to leave it like this. And this is basically how it looks. Let's make the text a little bit smaller and change these icons. Let's go into hero icons and look for a messages icon. Copy this and paste it here. Let's change this text X large to text base. And with this, we are basically done with the designing of the website. Only thing left is to add the dark mode. So it's really easy to create dark mode with Tailwind. All we need to do is to go inside this config file and basically enable dark mode by setting it to a class. Come back to app.jsx file. Inside this app component, we're gonna create a state variable named dark mode and a setter function set dark mode, and we need to import use state. So my VS Code automatically imports it. If that doesn't happen for you, you need to import it like this, and the initial state is going to be false. So this dark mode is the initial state, and right now the website is not in the dark mode, so that's why we set it to false. And using set dark mode, we are basically going to update this initial state to change between light mode and dark mode. And to be able to do it, you're going to create another function named toggle dark mode. This is basically a function that we are going to pass into a button, and when you click on that button, you're going to use set dark mode to change the previous mode to its opposite. So that means if you're in the light mode, we are going to set it to reverse of the light mode, which is going to be the dark mode. We are going to access the document, and we are going to toggle the class dark mode if it's the opposite of dark mode. And we are going to display it inside this div. So first we need to turn this into a dynamic text. So let's open up a set of curly braces and use backticks, and using $sign and curly braces. So if the dark mode is true, we are going to set the background to black. Otherwise, we are going to set it to white. Next, we need to figure out where we are going to use this toggle dark mode. So we are going to put a button in the navigation. So we are going to use it in the navigation. And also, when the viewport is smaller and the bottom nav is displayed, we also gonna put a button inside this. So we're only gonna use it inside these two components. So let's pass the dark mode to these components as props. Toggle dark mode is equal to toggle dark mode, and dark mode is equal to dark mode. I'm gonna pass the same props to bottom nav. Let's open navigation, and at the top we are going to destructure the props. So we're gonna use toggle dark mode and dark mode. So let's scroll down. Right above this logout, I'm gonna copy this and paste it, and let's delete everything inside and create a button. And on click, we are going to call the toggle dark mode function, which is going to reverse the background to dark mode. Let's make it a flex container and center the items. Justify start, gap to, and text X large. When you hover over this button, text is going to be blue, just like the others. And right outside this button, but still inside the list item, let's open a set of curly braces. So if the dark mode, we are going to display light mode, and if it's the light mode, we are going to display dark mode. This is basically a dynamic text that we are going to display inside this button. So if you're in the dark mode, is basically going to say switch to light mode, and if you're in the light mode, it is going to say switch to dark mode. Inside the button, we're gonna have another if statement. So if the dark mode is true, we are going to display a sun icon, and otherwise we are going to display a moon icon. So let's find them. Let's copy this icon and paste it here. Let's copy this one and paste it in the second parentheses. These curly braces is also going to be inside the button. So now let's see how it looks. So here is the dark mode. If I click on it, as you can see, the background changes to dark mode. Let's add the same button to the bottom nav as well. Let's go into the bottom nav, destructure the props, and inside the navigation, let's copy this list item and paste it right under this one. Let's set the text to text base, and here is the dark mode. As you can see, it still works. So only thing left is to add dark mode classes into the components. We can start with navigation. Let's go up. So inside this div, we can say dark border gray 700 and dark background black, dark text white. And let's actually switch to dark mode so it will be easier for us to see. And for the list items, dark hover background gray 900. Let's copy this and paste it for each list item. And this is how it looks. Next, let's go into the share post, dark border gray 700 and background black 60% and text white. So the text area, border gray 700 and background black. When you focus on it, the background gray is going to be 900. And this is how it looks. We still have the glass effect. When you click on the text area, background color changes. Next, let's go into the posts. Let's change the border, gray 700 and background black. Let's change the background color of this SVG as well. Let's set the width to 8, cursor pointer, rounded corners, and padding 1. When you hover over it, background gray 200 and dark hover, background gray 800. Let's scroll down, and this div is going to be background gray 900 and also text white. And this is how it looks. Let's go into friends. So inside this div, I'm gonna change the border to gray 700, background black, text white, and for the list items, background gray 900, and on hover, background gray 800, and this is how it looks. The only thing left is the bottom nav. Let's go into the bottom nav. We will change the border to gray 700, border top gray 107, and background black 60%, text white, the list items on hover, background gray 900. Let's copy this and paste it for the others. And this is how it looks. And with this done, we finish the project. So this is how we can create this social media app design using React and Tailwind. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next time.